I'm here so criminals are afraid of the streets at night. No evil deed should go unpunished.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about LUO YAN, and he is kind of like a forgotten Esper. Like a lot of players might have forgot that he exists. You know, very underrated Esper. And I want to tell you that you can actually make use of him right now. So in this video, you're gonna hear from me tips and tricks on how LUO YAN works and how you can make him good again in your lineup. It's kind of like a love and hate relationship. Like you can in theory make use of LUO YAN, like he looks really good in paper, but in an actual battle, like it is not something that you want to take a risk into investing. You know, we gonna talk about it in this whole video, like very. So we're gonna start with his first skill. First, attacks one enemy, damage 120% attack, heals the ally with the lowest HP percentage, healing 50% of the damage. So in theory, like in paper, the damage itself, 120% attack is a normal attack damage, like it is average number. And the heal is actually a lot, like healing 50% of the damage that you dealt using this skill. But the thing is that he is not a DPS Esper. So if you actually build him with 5000 attack and then 70% critical rate and 200% critical damage, then yeah, this gonna heal for a lot. But because he has a low base attack stats and also his ascension is not made for a DPS, like all his ascension gives him defensive stats. So if you do want to invest him into an attack Esper, then you're gonna need to invest a lot in your relic, which is not gonna be superior than any other DPS Esper, and it is kind of like a waste because if you do build him as a DPS, he's gonna be very squeezy, and you don't actually want LUO YAN to be squeezy, you know. So the first skill by itself, if you don't build him as a DPS, the healing is just tickling, you know. Like it's just a little bonus. Like if you do require healing, this is not something that you want to rely on. So by itself, if the second part of the skill is already useless, so this skill only deals 120% attack and that's it. You know, you don't actually count the healing into account. So that's already the first skill, you know. Now going to the second skill, grants one ally recovery for 2 turns and stand off for 1 turn. This is actually quite alright, quite good to prevent your allies from dying. But nowadays there are a lot of Espers that can dispel your buffs. You know, before this, like a couple of months ago, like having invincibility and stand off, like when Leora first came out, is actually a superior thing to have, like a very strong thing to have. But nowadays we have a ton of Esper that can dispel, like Iki, Chuyao, Sujue, like a lot of Esper can dispel your invincibility and stand off. So it is make it kind of like useless to have like invincibility and standoff to prevent your allies from dying, especially with the coming out of the newest Esper, which is Petros, you know. But there is something good about LUO YAN. So the second part about this skill is that LUO YAN has Death Tome. And this is his golden buff. Like any other golden buff that any other Esper have, this is something very unique that only LUO YAN has. And the use of Death Tome is that it revives LUO YAN himself instantly with healing upon death at the cost of this status effect, and healing 30% makes you HP. So at the very least, LUO YAN himself have 2 lives, and it cannot be prevented by Petros, because Petros' skill that can prevent death only affects someone that comes from the enemy's allies. So when enemies with HP below 20% cannot receive certain ally ability effects, including healing, risk HP bonus turn buffs, debuff dispelling death immunity, delayed death, increase HP, and reduce ability cooldowns. So the main key part about this skill is that when enemies receives certain ally ability effects. So Esper that can self prevent death, like Jiang Jili, Hyde, and LUO YAN, they are not affected by Petros' skill. And the thing is that now they changed the way Death Tome works. So like a couple of months ago too, like they changed the way Death Tome works. Like before this, Death Tome actually prevents LUO YAN's ally from dying at the cost of Death Tome, but now it only prevents LUO YAN himself from dying and instantly revives him. And the Death Tome to prevent allies' death now becomes revival. So if LUO YAN has Death Tome when the ally falls, revives and heals them, and healing 1% of the allies makes you HP, it's kind of like it is actually superior to Ollie's death prevention, because Ollie's death prevention is actually blocked by Petros, because it prevents allies from dying, you know. So this one it gets overcome by Petros, and Ollie will not be able to give invincibility and recovery afterwards because the ally is already dead. But for LUO YAN's case, he actually lets his allies die now, you know. So he doesn't prevent his allies' death, but when it comes for LUO YAN's turn to move and he has his second skill, he can cast this second skill to his allies and revive them for 1% HP, which is good, but he doesn't give his allies standoff or invincibility when reviving them, which makes them gonna die in the next turn again, you know. So if you are lucky and by the next turn after LUO YAN revives his allies, it's your healer turns to move, then you can help your ally to survive. But if it's the enemy turns to move right after your LUO YAN, then your ally gonna die again, you know. So that's why even though this is superior than Ollie's death prevention, it is also not something that you actually want to use in an actual battle, especially when a ton of Esper right now have a lot of these spells, and also they move really fast and have a lot of counter attack and AoE damage, etc, etc. Like 1%, they will die definitely in the next turn, you know. So but the thing is that Death Tome have two charges. So if you have LUO YAN at Resonance 6, like if you have Resonance 6 LUO YAN, then he has an extra Death Tome. If without Death Tome, when an ally falls, LUO YAN gains Death Tome triggers once per battle. So that is actually good, but also the requirement for this second Death Tome is that you already use the first one. So to make use of the first one is either LUO YAN himself already died once, or your allies died and then you use your Death Tome to revive that allies, which means that you need 2 allies to die first before you can get your second Death Tome. And by 2 allies, you need them to die separately. Like if they die at the same time, you still haven't revived the first ally who died, you know. You need your LUO YAN to move in between the death of your 2 allies, you know, in order to use his first Death Tome, and then the second allies who died gonna give him a second Death Tome. So that's why, even though it's actually supposed to be good, like in reality it's not that practical, you know. But it is quite alright if the stars align and you get lucky with your turn-based order and everything just click. Then you have 2 Death Tome that you can revive your ally, which is actually a superior revival, you know. Like if you have Abigail, you know, Abigail can revive her allies, but it has a 7 turns cooldown, and then we also have a Tomb Sisters who can revive her allies at 6 turns cooldown, but LUO YAN have 4 turns cooldown for this one. So you can revive twice at 4 turns cooldown, and that's it. You know, I don't think the battle can last any longer with 2 of your allies dead, you know, and at the separate occasion. But if you do want to compare to another revival Esper, then it has the same cooldown as Lauren. You know, Lauren can revive her allies with 4 turns cooldown too. But this one doesn't have the requirement of using Death Tomb. So you can revive your allies unlimited amount of time is if you are still in the fight, you know. While this one, you can only revive your allies twice, you know. So this is like supposed to work, but it also doesn't work at the same time. That's why I say it, like, you know, it is kind of like a love and hate relationship with LUO YAN. You do want to make use of him, but his skill makes you don't want to use him. Now going into and yeah, you have one abilimon to be put here, definitely to reduce the cooldown to 4 turns. Now going into his third skill, which is the main reason of why you want to bring LUO YAN nowadays. Like this is 99.9% the reason why you want LUO YAN, which is the maximum HP reduction. So the third skill attacks all enemies, damage 110% attack. It is 10% higher than an average AoE damage. Now, the best part about this skill is that it reduces the enemy's maximum HP by 30%, which until now can only be recovered by Ahmed. Ahmed is the only Esper that can recover maximum HP reduction, which makes maximum HP reduction is a superior debuff than any other debuff. Like it doesn't have a debuff icon which cannot be cleansed. So the only one who can recover this lost HP is just Ahmed. So if the enemy doesn't have Ahmed, then you can just chip away out of your enemy's strength and they cannot recover this health back even with like infinite heal on the enemy's part, which actually right now is kind of troublesome with Sakura, the latest addition to a healer defender Esper, which makes healing like a walk in a park, you know, like she can heal like no tomorrow, you know. Now, reducing the enemy's maximum HP also have a lot of other benefits. Like if the enemy use HP as their damage, like for example, like Feng Sun, he deals damage using his maximum HP. If his maximum HP is reduced, then he won't deal as much damage as he previously was. And also for Esper that heals based on their maximum HP, like Clara here healing 5% of Clara's maximum HP. If you reduce her maximum HP, she won't heal as much heal anymore. And a lot of healers use their maximum HP as healing. So that's why reducing the enemy's maximum HP is a very, very strong thing to have. And on top of that, LUO YAN have 70% chance of inflicting disease for 2 turns. The chance is a little bit lower, like I do expect this to be at least 75%, but yeah, this is some bonus to have, but disease right now is very, very important because also the latest Esper, the newest Esper that we have here is Amir, which has unlimited heal to himself. You know, he is kind of like the AoE version of Genie, but yeah, so that's why if you want to kill this kind of Esper, you do need a disease debuff nowadays, you know. And especially when Amir is very, very OP right now because he just came out and you know, not many players think about bringing disease into their PvP lineup. But if you do want to compare this skill to other Esper that can reduce maximum HP, it is also kind of like, you know, so I'm not gonna compare him to an Esper that reduce enemies maximum HP using their single target attack like Ana. We're gonna compare his skill to another AoE maximum HP reduction, which gonna compare apple to apple, you know. So the first one is gonna be Yuhime. She can reduce the enemy's maximum HP on top of putting disease, but the reduction is only 20% compared to LUO YAN's 30%. But Yuhime has 100% chance of inflicting disease while having a really good captain ability. But then again, she is a legendary Esper while LUO YAN is an epic Esper, so that is expected. But if you want to focus on reducing the enemy's maximum HP, you still gonna want to use LUO YAN on top of having Yuhime. But if you do want to focus more on giving the disease debuff to your enemy, then using Yuhime makes more sense compared to trying to force it using LUO YAN. And the reason why LUO YAN nowadays is being replaced is because of this guy. This guy have an insane maximum HP reduction that triggers once he has 8 stacks of Waxing Moon. Here, Lunatic reduces all enemies' maximum HP capacity by 30%, the same as LUO YAN, but this one won't miss and can't be resisted. So, when you are using LUO YAN, you need accuracy on him, and sometimes the enemy can resist your maximum HP reduction. But for Iki, there is no way to resist this. Like, the enemy will have their HP reduced by 30% no matter what they do, and still give him attack up, critical damage up, and shield for Iki himself. And the disease part comes from his Divinate. When Envious Moon deals damage, 50% chance of inflicting disease for 2 turns. Envious Moon is the one that deals damage to the enemy when enemies actively cast abilities or counter-attack. So, they gonna get disease when they attack Iki or Iki's allies. So, it is gonna happen on the enemy's turn, the disease. So, that's why Iki, and also a lot of players have Iki nowadays. He is the reason why LUO YAN is being replaced. But it is something that actually makes sense, like, because Iki is a freaking Simmer legendary Esper. Obviously he gonna be superior in every single aspect compared to LUO YAN, an epic Esper, you know. But that just shows that, you know, sometimes there are Espers who do get replaced by a legendary Esper, you know. So that is the reason of the death of LUO YAN. But if you don't have Iki, and you do want to have this maximum HP reduction and disease applied to your enemies, then no choice, your only choice is LUO YAN or Yuhime, or, you know, just try to do something else aside from just doing this. And like I said, this maximum HP reduction, even though this is very strong, like 2 years ago, when you are supposed to have LUO YAN to be used in climbing tower and doing your PvE content, he is already being overshadowed by Anesidora. And it also makes sense because Anesidora is a Simmer epic Esper, which is definitely supposedly superior than LUO YAN. And because of this, Anesidora, instead of reducing the enemy's maximum HP, actually deals 30% enemy's maximum HP as damage. So enemy can actually die from Anesidora, while for maximum HP reduction like LUO YAN, Yuhime, and Iki's case, it stops at 50% enemy's maximum HP reduction. So you cannot just keep reducing the enemy's maximum HP until 99% maximum HP reduction. That will be very OP, and if it happens, then I do recommend you to just build a lineup of every single Esper that can reduce the enemy's maximum HP, because the only counter to that is Ahmed, you know, and yeah, that's just gonna break the game. So you can only reduce enemy's maximum HP up to 50%, and after that you still need to deal damage to your enemies, which LUO YAN himself cannot do, because you don't build LUO YAN as a DPS, and hence why, even though his skill makes sense to be brought into your lineup, he himself prevents you from actually loving his skills, you know, and that is kind of like a problem right now with LUO YAN. So even though right now we have Amir as a future potential problem, you know. But you also don't really want to invest in Luo Yan just because of his disease here. You know, there are not many Esper that can inflict disease to your enemies. But if you do need disease, like I have a lot of other recommendations. Like for example, Sora have disease on her first skill. But the downside to this is that it only lasts for 1 turn, but you can just keep on spamming this because this is the first skill. And also a superior Esper that can inflict disease is Tang Xuan. He has his disease on his golden buff here. And so every single attack he do will inflict disease on his enemies. And as usual, we have our Embla here who can inflict disease every time her allies attack the enemy with corrupted seed, you know. But it is not an AoE thing, so you do need to keep giving a lot of corrupted seed to the all 5 enemies to give disease on all 5 enemies. But yeah, it just depends on what you need at that point in time, you know. So not something that you want to bring just because of the disease, and that's why, you know, yeah, investing in Luo Yan is not something that you actually want to do. But if you do want to make use of him, you know, his skills doesn't scale with his stats, you know, like it scales with attack, but you don't want to increase his attack at all, you know. So you can just stop his level at level 50 if you want, and if you want to increase his survivability, then increase his level to level 60. He does help you in PvE content if you are still climbing up the tower and also going through the story, you know. But afterwards, he doesn't have much usage anymore. And the captain ability, he also have captain ability, increase ally resist in point war, knockout, and beat bout, which is in PvP, which makes sense. Like a long time ago, also I love using Luo Yan in PvP because, like I said, the only counter to maximum HP reduction is Ahmed. So if the enemy doesn't have Ahmed, they don't have any way into dealing against Luo Yan. But the resist now is useless because nowadays in PvP we have rival rune, and for a support Esper, they all have insanely high resist already in their rival rune. So there is no use of increasing your resist anymore if you aim for your support Esper to prevent being stunned. So the only way you want to increase your resist is for your DPS Esper, you know. So your DPS Esper doesn't have that much resist, but if you have a cleanser, then what you need to have high resist is just your support. If your support doesn't get stunned, then they are the one who gonna cleanse your allies, you know, disable. So that's why this captain ability, the resist one, is no longer being used. Like this is really good when Feng Nuxi first came out. I had a video about that, but nowadays you don't want to have resist as your captain anymore unless you do have, like, you know, planning to outlast your enemy into outlive your enemy into winning, you know. So resonance, we've already seen the 6th resonance. Now the 2nd resonance of him, when attacked by a critical hit, damage minus 12%, increasing his survivability. And then the 4th resonance, when the target is not buffed, miss rate minus 25%, which is good because he is not a Simmer Esper, so he has a miss rate against an Inferno element. So with that 4th resonance, he actually have a better chance of applying maximum HP reduction to his enemy's Inferno element, you know. So going into his Ascension, we've already seen this, like it increases HP, defense, and this is the one that gives you the what is the difference? And select fallen ally to revive. No. And stand off. Yeah, the difference is stand off. So you gotta stand off from this one. Like I said, the standoff is no longer that useful, but if the enemy doesn't have this spell, especially if you are in a PvE content, then feel free to abuse that, you know. So going here, there's accuracy increase, HP, and another defense. So basically, it gives increase his survivability, while the accuracy helps him into giving the maximum HP reduction and also the disease. Remember, maximum HP reduction here gets affected by accuracy.
Great power must be
So going into his rival rune,
restraints.
it's actually quite okay. Like if you do want to make use of his maximum HP reduction as your main damage dealing from your LUO YAN, then you do need him to move fast, because that will make him rotate faster into his third skill, which you can reduce the enemy's maximum HP to 50% fast, you know, as soon as possible. So Windwalker here, Wind Rally, really good, and the growth here just increases survivability even further. So that's just an added bonus. Now going to the Divinate, when the target's HP is below 50%, that's final damage plus 20%. That is the first skill. So it does help in increasing his healing, but like I said, his damage itself is not that high, you know, so you won't see that much healing coming out from him. Look at this, like his attack is even lower than his defense, so yeah, not gonna happen. So that is LUO YAN, guys. So yeah, kind of like good in paper, but nowadays he's being overshadowed by a lot of Esper. So I do hope that the only thing left for him is the Death Tome, which is kind of like superior right now against Petros. But then again, I don't see many usage when the healing is only 1% of the LS maximum HP. Probably there's gonna be another interaction with a newer Esper in the future, but for now and into the foreseeable future, like it is not. I don't recommend investing in LUO YAN yet, you know. So that's it for tonight's videos, guys. Hope you learned a lot from here, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.